Hey, good afternoon, grade 10, grade 12. It's the end of the week. We have 10 more school days left till your final submission on June 19th. So just stay on track with that. You have your TED Talks presentations. It's a video version of it. I had a question today from grade 12 student asking if it could be video or audio. The issue with audio is that I can't assess your eye contact or facial expressions for voice elevation, and then it's also tied into your overall content and overall presentation. So please record your video and then send it through whatever means you can send it, whether it's on Google Classroom or Google Docs, I guess, or try email, see if that'll work, or post it on the Google assignment site that I posted 2 weeks ago or something like that, and give that a try too. If you have a private link to a YouTube channel that works too, then that just send me the link, so that provides me access to that. But please make it private though, not public. And be sure, if there's some topics you're thinking about but you're not sure about whether it's appropriate or something like that, please have that dialogue with me. I had one today, and I'm glad that the student did that, because it was necessary to know where the student was going with the topic and so on and so forth. So be sure to validate too. So whenever you share what you know, always validate it with a story or a source. And if you are borrowing from an outside source, and yes, you do need to state, whether you got it from macleans.ca or a book or whatever the case, in chapters, pages, act, scenes, if you are referring to plays and stuff like that. So be sure that you are doing that. And then, so you get that mark for the presentation, and then you get 0 out of 30 or 30 out of 30 for the written component. That could be the actual speech, verbatim. The term used today was transcribed the video. That could be that you just submit that as well, or the jot notes, whatever you're using. So take pictures of it, send it that way if that works. If you're using cue cards while you do your presentation, then just take pictures of the cue cards and submit it that way. You normally would do that in the classroom anyway. So and then the marks will be updated for one final time, and then you'll have your marks the week of the 20th to 24th, because marks have to be in by June 24th. So after the 19th is done, then I'll have all your marks updated, and then we'll know where you stand in regards to maintaining your mark. Obviously, you can't go any lower, so keep that in mind. But maintenance of your mark, so maintaining what you have earned, is very important, and that's an amazing success story right there. If you can maintain that mark based on your skill sets and so on and so forth. Obviously, if there's improvement in the mark, then awesome. That's a bonus for you. And then you can carry that into your transition next year into grade 11 for the grade 10s, and of course post-secondary for the grade 12s. But maintaining a mark is probably the most challenging part, because you've earned up to this point. Now you need to keep ensuring that you're meeting those goals, those outcomes, those objectives, so that mark can stay where it is. And obviously, there's room for improvement as well. So keep that in mind as well. Going to leave you for this week anyways, before we get into the weekend, with some grammar, just to remind you about parts of speech. And it was actually a request. So I'm going to share here. And you should recognize this. This is from the on the board in the classroom. And so parts of speech, that's your 8 parts of speech. So whenever you are writing something, even articulating it orally or whatever the case, you need to ensure that you are maintaining your grammar and for clarity and purposes and so on and so forth. So this poem actually, and poetry is a great way to practice grammar and express thoughts and ideas. The parts of speech poem, every name is called a noun. So right off the bat, you know, if you have to name it, it's a noun. If you actually give it a name, like a title or something like that, and obviously you capitalize those nouns. But aside from that, if it's just general, then you don't need to, as field, fountain, street, and town. Okay. So a field, if you're going to name it, like Taylor Field would be capitalized. If it's a fountain, like Shepherd's Fountain, then you would have those capitalized. If it's a street, it would be, you know, like 8th Street East. That would be capitalized. And then town or city, you know, Saskatoon, Toronto, Montreal, whatever. That would be capitalized. But if you're just generalizing and just mention a town, life, or that kind of stuff, would be lowercase. In place of a noun, the pronoun stands. So if you don't want to use a noun, especially if you're want to group things, or instead of repeating the same name over, you know, Bobby and Judy, for names all the time, you would replace it with he and she. If it's a group, they. So as he, she, they, we, and so on and so forth. As she and he can clap their hands, the adjective describes a thing. So whenever you have a noun, you are describing something like a red ball, then the ball is the noun, the red is the adjective. So the adjective describes a thing, as magic wand or bridal ring. The verb means action, something done. So any action that's taking place is your verb, okay? And so to read and write, to jump and run, how things are done, the adverbs tell. So if you want to describe that verb in a different manner, then you would add words such as quickly, slowly, badly, well. So I quickly read the book. I'm going to change the tense. I wrote slowly. I jumped well. I ran badly. Those kind of things. Change the tense and the term, but it's the same thing. Adverbs can come before or after. Same with adjectives as well. The preposition shows relation. So if you are talking, and technically location. So in relation to, or the location of, as in the street or at the station. So you have your noun and you're saying around the corner. So corner is the noun, but it's around the corner. That's your preposition. The conjunctions, these are the ones where you can become more complex by using conjunctions. They join in many ways: sentences, words, or phrase and phrase. So you can use or and. Be sure you have the commas after the second and, if you have a second and in the sentence. Commas before or, but as well. There are some cases where but doesn't require a comma, because it's not, if it's not a complete phrase, like another complete sentence, because that's what conjunctions do. They can join two simple sentences into one. Then of course you don't need to use the but. So if it's not a full sentence, it's just a phrase. That's seems to be the understanding as they've changed the they changed the way but is used and how you have to punctuate it. So, and that's just fairly recent from what I understand. But if it's been there for quite a while, then it hasn't been pushed too much anyway. So I'm starting to be more aware of when to use a comma before but and when not to. So Sentences, words, or phrase and phrase. The interjection cries out, "Hark!" with an exclamation mark. So anytime you exclaim something, show some excitement, you put that exclamation mark. Interjection always has that exclamation mark. Okay. There are some cases where you can stress something with a period as well, but it's how you say it. So it's the emphasis of it, and so that's your interjection. But 99% of the time, you're going to have an exclamation mark for interjections. Okay. So through poetry, we learn how each of these make up the parts of speech. So that's your quick 8 parts of speech review. And if you do need to look at a little more detail on how to do the grammar, the 8 parts of speech, how to rewrite sentences, that Yoda assignment we did, great example. Yoda's perfect for fixing up your grammar. And so look at it, look at the quotes again and to practice that so you can rewrite it in a more profound and clear manner. And be sure you're aware of that while you're doing your writing for either for papers or for responses, things like that, because your audience is going to pick up on the fact that your sentences are clear or they're not clear. And if they're not clear, that affects the overall presentation and of course your value of your thoughts and ideas are lessened. Or they're not the taken seriously part. It's difficult to take it seriously because you haven't done the editing process, you haven't checked it over, you just submitted it just to get it done. And that's really hard on the audience because they're anticipating a decent response, and then there's all these errors, spell checks and proofreading hasn't been done, and it's a really hard read for teachers anyways, or any audience for that matter. So be aware of the fact that you are writing for the reader, for your audience, and then you're writing for yourself second. And if you are just writing for yourself, that's your diary, that's a journal entry or something like that. But whenever it's something that you have to present or hand in, you are writing for them, okay, not just for yourself. Okay. So and in post-secondary especially, paraphrasing is crucial. Be sure that you are proofreading and editing and checking things out, getting other people to read it. So if they understand it, then you have a pretty good, decent paper to submit. So your audience should have a fair shake on or a fair understanding of what's going on. So I'm going to have some other videos in regards to study tips and things like that, just to help you with the transition as we await word on what the fall is going to look like for those returning to high school in the fall. And post-secondary, you already know that courses are being offered online. So time management right across the board, whether it's high school or even post-secondary, is very important. That's why the deadline periods were set up the way they are. And so you have a taste of what it's like to manage your time. And hopefully you've learned from that experience, and leaving things to the last second doesn't always work. And especially when you are taking multiple classes and multiple courses that involve thinking and creative thinking and different tasks and stuff like that. Management is even more important because you're juggling all these different components, and so you do one thing, get that done, then move on to the next task and get that done, and then so on and so forth. Maybe come back to the other ones just to fine-tune things and so on and so forth. And then, I'm saying so on and so forth, right? Okay. Anyways, you get the hint, or you get the point. All right. So if you have any questions, give me a shout. Have a great weekend. Be sure you take care of yourselves, take care of your family, and we'll see you on Monday. All right. Get your TED Talks in.